And I thought there would be a little bit about Hanukkah over here, but it turned out to be mainly about just begging and asking and expecting the Geulah to come. So we'll start from the second line from the top of the page. In Yonish Yutas Kislev Hu Pada V'Sholem Nafshi. V'hinei Inyan Hapdia Pada V'Sholem Nafshi, this idea of redeeming in a peaceful manner my soul, that's what David HaMelech said. Moira, this indicates, when you talk about redemption, so that indicates prior to the redemption, there was an unwanted state, and not a good state. Therefore, you needed to have a redemption until you have a redemption in a way of peace. And the Rebbe connects it with this past Shabbos. The Bikish Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva, that Rashi says that the beginning of Parshas Vayeshev, why does it say Vayeshev Yaakov? Because Yaakov wanted to be settled in tranquility. He wanted to have a peaceful life. Kafatz Olav Rugze Shal Yosef. So the upset, the disturbance, the problems of Yosef came upon him like in the way that you normally learn it, is that despite his wanting to have peace, Hashem said no. So just like by the Alter Rebbe, there was the untoward situation, that because of that, he had to be redeemed. That's the Pada V'Sholem Nafshi by the Alter Rebbe. It's similar to the state where the upset of Yosef jumped upon Yaakov, as opposed to the idea they redeemed in peace my soul, the idea that how was the redemption of the Alter Rebbe? It was in a way of peace and calmness. It's similar to the idea of that Yaakov Avinu wanted to be settled in peace. But the Rebbe is going to say seemingly that it's not a good connection, because it seems to be just the opposite. We can add to this by Mikyos even more in depth. At first glance, there's a difference in the order of the things that took place in Yutas Kislev to the way it took place in Parshas Vayeshev. Yutas Kislev during the 19th of Kislev initially began a not good thing. Afterwards, there was the idea that in soul, in peace was redeemed my soul. The but Parshas Vayeshev, as opposed to Parshas Vayeshev, it was the other way around. Initially, was Yaakov desiring and wanting to be in a peaceful, restful manner. And afterwards, the upset of Yosef occurred to him. So the Rebbe says it's not so. It's not contradictory. But if you examine this well, Harigam beParshas Vayeshev ba inyan the yeshiva b'shalva lamitosei v'shleimusei la'achrei amatzav the kafetz olav rugz Yosef. Also in Parshas Vayeshev, which means what's going to happen afterwards. It wasn't in the time of Parshas Vayeshev. Came the idea of being settled in a state of tranquility, in its true tranquility and its complete and perfect tranquility, after the upset of the situation of Yosef, just like the Alter Rebbe had the redemption and peace after the imprisonment. The idea behind this is, Nisbar Bam Baruch, the Rebbe said, it was explained at length on a previous occasion, since Yaakov Avinu wanted to settle in peace, to be in a state of tranquility, So you cannot say that he didn't have it. One must say that if a tzaddik wants something, for sure it occurred. There's no question about it. The fact that the upset of Yosef piled up on top of him, but just the opposite. Not only was it not the kafetz olav, was it not not that it was the antithesis of the concept of Bikish Yaakov like Shabbat, but just the opposite. Through that he came about to the real settling in peace, to really being settled in a calm way, in a good way. In other words, Yaakov Avinu's request was granted, but only via the negative thing that took place in between. And you don't need to learn Chassidus for this. You read Chumash, and you read what happened in Parshas Vayeshev, then you read what happened in Parshas Miketz, until you begin Parshas V'yechi. But Parshas, simply put, as a result of the upset and the terrible event of Yosef, Nishtalshul Advarim became a whole descent, a chain of occurrences. Yaakov Yarad LeMitzrayim b'derech shel kavod, that Yaakov descended to Mitzrayim in a manner of honor. Skip the parentheses. The Rebbe mentions over there, Chazal say that Yaakov Avinu had to go down to Mitzrayim either way, but he could have been Chas v'Shalom, been taken prisoner, literally be led there in chains, or instead, by this whole situation with Yosef, he was brought down in a very honored way and in a respected fashion. He wasn't a prisoner. He was treated with great honor and respect by Pari in Egypt and so on. Till Pari himself, the king of Mitzrayim, commanded to bring wagons from Egypt to bring Yaakov. Not only that, that Yaakov benched Pari, indicating the great respect that Pari had for Yaakov, and therefore, by extension, the Egyptians had for him. In such a degree, that Yaakov lived in Mitzrayim 17 years. Hainu, as we know the famous saying that the Chazal explains, that the best years of Yaakov was the 17 years they lived in the land of Mitzrayim. Like the expression of the Zohar is, skip the parentheses, the Eibishter gave him another 17 years, the Iskayim, or final 17 years, the Iskayim ba'ara de Mitzrayim, bechadu bi'ikaru b'shlimid akula, that he lived in Mitzrayim in the with honor and the most special way and the most rejoiced way was when he was in Mitzrayim. Yud Zayin Shana Machi Toivis, the best years. Shebehem Hoya in the Vayeshev Yeshiva B'Shalva B'Tachsa Shleimus. That through that was the idea of that he was settled in a peaceful way, in the most perfect manner. So what do we see over here? That the idea of Yosef did not undermine Yaakov's dream, but it actually contributed to and enabled Yaakov's dream. That Yaakov's dream that was brought about in the ultimate way through that. So let's skip over to the next page. Let's go to the middle of the page. Third paragraph from the top. We could bring an example for this. That the Rebbe also says. Let's go to the second paragraph. So he says, the Rebbe says like this: Yaakov's request for calmness and tranquility was according to what he understood calmness and tranquility was and is. Avlafel became still in all Hashem fulfilled the request of Yaakov much more incomparably higher than what Yaakov could have imagined. According to only the way Hashem understands. After the prefacing of the idea of the anger of and the upset of the situation of Yosef. So he says, we can bring an example for this. It's explained in many places in the explanation of the tefillah. It says, in your great compassion, have mercy upon us. So the question is, why is there an emphasis in your great compassion? Why doesn't it just say, have mercy upon us? So the Rebbe explains, it's not only because the mercy of Hashem are much greater than a human being's mercy, and therefore, by asking it to be according to Hashem's mercy, so whatever we're trying to bring out from Hashem, it'll be in a so much greater fashion. Ki im rachmanis al inyan kazeh, rather, we're asking for mercy on such a type of matter. According to our poor mind, our limited mind, we don't even feel how it's something that we need Hashem's mercy for. And therefore we would never have asked for it, since we don't feel that we're lacking this. Like, for example, you could have Nebuch, people that are mentally deficient, and they are homeless related to that, and they think that they are happy living on a park bench, living under a bridge, or whatever it is, and all they want from from a person that they ask something in the street is just some money to buy a loaf of bread, or something like that. But they're not even thinking, even if the person were to offer them a means to get on their feet and to move into a house and whatever, they would laugh at them and say, what do I need it for? I'm perfectly comfortable here on the park bench. So it's the bigger rachmanis on them that they don't even realize what type of rachmanis it is on them. So the same thing, a lot of times, we have situations that we don't even realize how much of a rachmanis it is on us. Therefore we say, your rachmanis, Hashem, have rachmanis on us. With your mercy, use your appreciation of what's lacking to us. Therefore we request, in your great mercy, have mercy upon us. Specifically in your mercy, that's so great, it has no boundary, a measure of the chain order of descent. Racham aleinu, have compassion upon us. Why? Why do we need Hashem's compassion that's beyond Seder Ishtalshlus? Us that we already came down to Seder Ishtalshlus. We have no concept, we have no grasp of this mercy and compassion that's beyond the Ishtalshlus Lagamri. More specifically, there's a level where the Shvatim appreciate the mercy. And that's also the idea of the compassion and mercy of Yaakov, that is midah, is a midah of compassion and mercy. Specifically, your great mercy, your great compassion. This is also the meaning that we ask from Hashem, that He should give us from His full, open, holy, and broad hand. Not only the matter that we're asking should come down in a in a manner of much, because Hashem is infinite. Ella oidzos, and even more so, Hakadosh Baruch Hu yitin lanu k'vishu hu Hakadosh Baruch Hu mevim manikra miyadam le'apsuch HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem should give it to us the way Hashem understands what's called His full, open, holy, and broad hand. Gam minyanim ka'elu shaloi yinim avakshim, even such matters that we wouldn't have requested, because we don't even feel the need for it. Shekain, the reason is Kechol Yehudi Yeshayir as Geulah Ilush Bedavar, as much as a Jew can imagine the great quality of the matter, Afilu boy from the Bechol Meidechol Amailum Didav Agbala, even away with all your might, with beyond measure and boundary. Hareza Soif Kol Soif Moed Shel Chabal Vad. This is still your own beyond measure. It's only your appreciation of what's beyond measure. V'lechein mevakshim. Therefore, we request from His full, open, holy, and broad hand, according to Hashem's understanding of what a broad hand is. And in a similar manner, so too in our case, that the request of Yaakov to sit in the tranquility, he was fulfilled. But it was fulfilled the way Hashem understands. Let's skip over a little bit more. Let's see over here. Okay, let's skip over a few pages. The Rebbe goes into, in a similar vein, what Yaakov Avinu meant when he wanted to have Esav, when he thought that Esav was ready for the Geulah, and so on. So he says, Yud Zayin, second paragraph, second line on the page. After the entire suffering of being in exile in the house of Lavan that the Rebbe spoke about in the last few pages, Yaakov Avinu was already ready for the complete redemption. Not only that, from Yaakov's perspective, he could have gone already with Geulah together with Esav. Not just the way Esav is in the spiritual root, also the way Esav is found down here below, in the land of Seir, the field of Eder. Because from the level and the service of Yaakov, Nifal Gamis Esav the Lamata, this also impacted and influenced Esav down here below. Esav down here below returned to his source. How do you know? In the source, he was maybe great stuff, but down here below, how do you see that? So he says, a proof of this is, Yaakov sent messengers to let Esav know, I lived with the Lavan, the wicked, V'taryag mitzvah shamarti, and I observed and kept the 613 mitzvahs. If you want to tell me that Esav down here was not in a good place, letting him know that he survived Lavan and he served Hashem, not only won't it calm Esav's spirit, but just the opposite. It'll actually unreizen him, we say in Yiddish. It'll tease him. It'll make him even more angry. Shekain, listen to the following reasoning. Esav is sitting in the same land like Yitzchak, his father, and he's doing everything wrong. He's doing everything that's prohibited. Yaakov was sitting in the house of Lavan and he's observing the 613 mitzvahs. Can you imagine how upsetting that is to Esav? Esav would be totally eaten up by this. Surely we must say from the perspective and level of Yaakov, Esav was already in a good place, ad kedei kach, to such a degree, he could have appeased him through letting him know that Yaakov kept the 613 mitzvahs. So he said, in the brackets, he gets into what the Malachim came back, and they said that Esav was still before the Bidur. I'm not going to get into that, so skip the brackets to the paragraph following. Alpha became still in all. Since Hashem wanted that the redemption should be in a much higher way than what was able to be in the times of Yaakov, until an incomparably higher level. Therefore, there was a need for the continuing descent of the exile after Yaakov met Esav. Shekain, Shekol, Shetigzal, Giridus HaGolus, the greater the descent of Golus increases, Kain, Yigdal Ha'ilish bin Geulah, so too it will increase the level of the quality of the redemption from Tzara Agra according to the pain is the reward. And then the Rebbe goes on that there was even a further pain, the pain of Yosef, and in a similar vein that the Yidden had to stay in Mitzrayim extra time, if you will, to collect the great wealth, because again, this was another example of even though they're in Mitzrayim, even though they're in a state of Golus, still in all, the great wealth, the great benefit that they will get from it is deserving of it, the Geulah. So here the Rebbe is going to go on the bottom of the page. Let's look at the let's go to Ois Yud Ches. After all of that, so the Rebbe is now going to turn everything on its head and bring out that was all fine and good in Yaakov's times, or even in Mitzrayim's times. But now, that's it. It's over. It's already come the time for Yaakov's request, Vayeshev b'shalva, to be fulfilled. Ois Yud Ches, 3 paragraphs on the bottom of the page. After everything we spoke about earlier, Tzarech Yehudi Lilmod Managasa Shal Yaakov. A Yid has to learn not for what Hashem did, but what Yaakov acted. Bikesh Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva. Yaakov requested and wanted to sit in tranquility. And so too, what the Rebbe referred to about going out of Mitzrayim, that Yidden would have said, if not for the fact that Hashem had a promise to keep the Avram, let's just go out, forget about the great wealth. Skip the parentheses. Ubemela, when we learn from Yaakov Avinu's request, this has to inspire us to the following: Calls man shadayin loibam Moshiach tzedkeinu. As long as Moshiach hasn't come, tzarich Yehudi levakish yavi Moshiach tzedkeinu. A Yid has to request and ask that Moshiach should come. Not only that, not just ask and daven for it, but to demand about the Geulah, like the expression of Chazal that's also brought down in halacha, that it has to be in a way of demand. Still, the smart one, which is the Rebbe's nickname for the other side within every person, he can come ahead and say like this: why do you have to make a whole tumult? You want to sit in tranquility with Mashiach. before you, people tried doing it, and the answer was no. Bikish Yaakov later, Shalva Yaakov wanted to sit in tranquility. Vafel became loinus kabel bakashosi, and still in all his request was not accepted by Hashem. Okamaikim Bikshu b'nei Yisrael v'lvaisha neitzabat zmeinu atziyuni hayoyim v'nim avakish klum, and so too the Yidden asked, let's just go out, forget about the great wealth, just take us out of Mitzrayim. Vafel became ikvum begol sachigia ketz. Despite the fact what Yidden wanted, and despite the fact what Yaakov wanted, Hashem held them back in exile until there came the time for the end of the Geulah. Since that's the case, we see that what took place in history. Why are you making a whole tumult about the Geulah, that you want to be in a tranquil state and a peaceful state with Moshiach? So the Rebbe goes on and says, he continues in the complaint of the Klugenker. Toyena Klugenker, the smart one, goes ahead and comes with the complaints. If you're going to complain in that type of way, if you're going to make a whole tumult that you want to sit in a peaceful way, it can bring about anger, chas v'sholom. That itself will bring to an opposite manner of delay b'shalva. Al derech shayitol Yaakov, similar to what took place by Yaakov. Not only wasn't Yaakov's Avinu's request to sit in tranquility wasn't fulfilled, but just the opposite. Kafatz alav rugzishol Yosef, the anger of Yosef burst upon him. Like Rashi continues, Hashem said, is it not sufficient for tzaddikim that Olam Haba is ready for them? They want to sit in tranquility in this world. No. Yosef. So the Yetzer Hara tells the Yid, back down, don't make waves. You're going to make waves about Mashiach coming, you're going to make it even worse. Al kach meishu Yehudi la Klugenkir. For this, a Yid answers the Yetzer Hara. Do you think that you, the Yetzer Hara, what you're saying is something, a novel, a new approach? For sure, you, the Yetzer Hara, know I as well know about the results, what happened after Yaakov requested to sit in peace. I also know when the Yidden complained, take me out today, and I did not request anything. This complaint didn't help. And Hashem delayed them in Geulah an additional amount of time so they'd be able to borrow the silver and the gold from the Egyptians, etc., so they should be able to go out with great wealth. HaTorah separately calls it. Torah told this to me. Therefore, your words, the Yetzer Hara's words to me, have no new revelation that I never thought about beforehand. Therefore, if I'm still asking about this out of a great storm about the Geulah, like the Torah teaches us that we're supposed to demand the Geulah, surely I have a reasoning that outweighs what you think should be the way of acting. If the Torah wouldn't relate all of this, the Rebbe says, you're having a conversation with the Yetzer Hara, and I'm hearing this from you. The Yid is continuing in his response to the Yetzer Hara. So then there would have been room for me to get like, maybe he's got a point. Because of that, the Torah came before you, the Yetzer Hara, told me this. So you do not come to reveal a new explanation that was not known beforehand. So, what's the answer? Well, the very topic, what's the explanation? The real reason why Yaakov Avinu's request was not fulfilled, that the redemption should come in his days, this is because Hashem wanted that the redemption should be in a much higher way, incomparably than the way Yaakov imagined it could be, like we mentioned earlier. Therefore, based love, and therefore the suffering of exile to be even more than the 20 years of suffering in exile in the house of Lavan. Kamai came in the Geulah Mitzrayim in a similar vein concerning the exile in Mitzrayim. It was not fulfilled the request of the Yidden that halavai we should go out on our own without the great wealth. Since Hashem wanted they should go out with great wealth, it was necessary to delay them additional time. Amnam, but la'achreishin is arach hagolos beyoser ubeyoser ad liyamenu elu. After the golus was lengthened much, much more until these days. Hari bevadai ubevadai sheyechoyla liyos kvar agula ba'ifna chin la'alam. Surely, and surely so, it could be the redemption in the highest, most manner. Skip the parentheses. Surely we have the great wealth in the ultimate way. That's why you didn't shout out up till when? Let Geulah cease already. Bedeutest hakoidmen in earlier generations, let me can't arish mussten the elder Zayden shagedailis akevoid mat begolus Vayeshev b'taksas shlemus. We could have convinced our great grandfather that it's worthwhile to stay a little bit more in exile, so there should be an ultimate state of Vayeshev, like we said. Or that we should afterwards go out with great wealth. But us, that we were born after was printed in the Siddur, as that the sprout of David, your servant, quickly make blossom. Because to your hope, we hoped, because to your salvation, we hoped for the entire day. Like after it was already ruled in halachas form that you have to demand the Geulah, like we mentioned earlier. So the Rebbe says, we won't let anybody convince us otherwise, even when the Klugenker comes and tells us this. Since that is the case, we will continue to demand the Geulah out of stubbornness, because we're an Am Kshei Oiref, we're a stiff-necked people, L'mal Yusam. We are stiff-necked in a positive way. Skip the next paragraph, the brackets. Not only does this not awaken chas v'sholom by Hashem and anger, and Hashem being upset at us for demanding this, ela adrab, just the opposite. Through requesting and demanding about the Geulah, mekarvim, ma'arim, poilum sagula, poil mamish. We make it closer and we speed up and we affect the redemption. In actuality, he explained that what does it mean that the tzemach, the sprout of David, your servant, you will quickly make blossom, ki, because we have hoped to your salvation. So he says one is a reason for the other. Sheki hu inyan shel nesinas tam. The word ki means because. Hainu sheyesh lanu hakivui. Because we have the hope, a whole day, we're the whole time hoping for Moshiach. Ubeschar hakivui, as a reward of the hope itself. Kidaish Tigalenu, it's worthwhile that we should be redeemed. In such a manner that our eyes should see when you return to Tzion with mercy. Our eyes should see. Basar, eyes of flesh. Beshuv Tzion, returning to Tzion, Tzion Kipshutai, the literal Tzion. Loidak Bechias Tzion, Beruchnias Etzman, Neshama, Shebechias Tzion, Vesimon. It's not just talking about the spiritual Tzion, which is the essence of the Neshama, which is a sign for Hashem. Kim Bapoil Mamish, rather the Tzion down here in actuality, down here below 10 handbreadths. Action is what's primary. The idea of settling, sitting in tranquility, in the ultimate perfect state. To be open the neshamas begufim in such a way, souls inside bodies. Like the simple, literal thing of Vayeshev according to halacha. The words of Hashem, that's halacha. Along with the Chazal say that the words of Hashem that is going on the end of days, Geulah mitzvah shlema di Moshiach tzedkenu, the true and complete redemption through Moshiach. Then it will be that we will be settled in a tranquil way in the ultimate perfection. But pashtus, and simply put, should take from Yad Mamish Yoitzim Komneis Rama Golos, that immediately all Yidden leave behind the Golos, Ben Nareinu, Bas Kenenu, Benenu, Benesenu, with our youth and our elderly and our sons and our daughters, Shleimus Am, the complete and perfect nation, V'kasvam Zavim Mitam, the silver and gold with them, Hein Kesav Azav Kipshute, both the literal silver and gold, V'hein Kesav Azav Ruchnim, also spiritual silver and gold, which is Ava V'yira, love and awe of Hashem, HaKoilim Shleimus HaTorah HaMitzvahs, love and awe of Hashem, we know, contain in it the perfection of Torah mitzvahs, like the Alter Rebbe says in the beginning of Tanya, that love is the source of all positive commandments, awe is the source of all negative commandments. We come to Eretz Yisrael, Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz Miguri Aviv, that Yaakov settled in the land of his father's dwelling. Shleimus Haaretz, the perfect land, the complete land. V'Yisraelim is even more so. Yarchav Hashem Elokechas Gevulcha. Now when Moshiach comes, it'll be the time when Hashem will broaden your land. Loidak Eretz Sheva Umois Eretz Canaan. Not only will you have the land of the 7 nations, like it took place where Yeshua went into Eretz Yisrael, the land of Canaan. Elagam Eretz Keni Knizi Kadmoni, also the land of the Keni Knizi and Kadmoni. Arotzes Shoyet Chilu Eitzalim Soilim, lands that were initially by the nations of the world. V'nizbadro Adem Aseinu V'Etzenu Kol Meshach Mana Golos. They were refined through our actions of service throughout the duration of the time of Golos. Including the request and demand for the redemption. And now the last line, and all these matters speedily in our days, mamish now.